Hello, I'm Toycat, and I think a common human experience is having someone in your life somewhere try to put you down. We often say this on the internet as haters, and it's common if you spend a lot of time on social media to eventually run across someone who is a hater. But I think this is really oversimplifying the real issue at the heart of why it hurts when you get criticism from random strangers, because sometimes, you know, that criticism is entirely warranted and it hurts then, but when it's unwarranted, it almost hurts more. Which feels weird because, you know, if you were to criticize me for, I know you don't like my hair, you think it's too long, that's a real criticism, right? That's at least a valid one. But if you say like, oh, Toycat, I hate how tall you are, or, you know, something like that, it'd be like, well, that's not really a problem. I hate how fat you are, Toycat. I don't know if that's actually something that you can really despise me for. It's not. If you say, oh, Toycat, I hate that you're secretly a transformer, it's an invalid criticism, right? Because I'm not secretly a transformer. Although if I was, probably wouldn't say so in a YouTube video and blow my cover. But the point is, everyone has these fears of being criticized. Sometimes you have fear of being criticized rightly, but I think a lot of people have fear of being criticized no matter what the situation is. Like something deep inside of every human says that, yeah, being hated, having haters, having people who don't like you is bad. And so I recently uploaded, oh, I didn't upload a video, I've done a few collabs in my time, but I did one kind of fun recently because I figured, like, I started a YouTube channel. I was related to driving, if you're curious, and a lot of people were asking them to do like mock tests. It makes sense for a driving related channel to do that, and I was like, oh, it'll be fun to like use that as an opportunity to do the same, because I think I'm a terrible British driver. Like, I drive most of my time outside of the UK, because in the UK you don't really need to drive outside if you go into like rural Scotland or Wales, or you're going between two cities that just don't have a rail connection. Like, in general, you don't need to drive. You can choose to drive in the UK, and it's a fine option, but it's just like, if you value your like productive time, like I kind of need to. I don't find myself driving very often in the UK, but I do find myself driving often in other countries where that's not true. I physically could not get to the middle of this wilderness in any country, probably, by public transport. And so I think it'd be fun to see, like, well, I passed in the UK, so it looks like I drive in these places. Why don't I see how I do in the UK? And I figured people would see it as fun. Like, I came at it with a fun attitude of like, yeah, here to improve, let's see how this goes. Though, like, kind of was a little jovial about the whole thing too. But something about, I got like just my first read in the comments, like, just a bunch of people didn't take it fun and like, haha, but were actually like, oh my god, this is terrible. You know, like, people like trying to tear apart my soul, my driving, my very existence. Like, wow, you can't deal with silence. And it's like, there's like 20-minute interval, like 10-minute intervals between me saying things. That's not me not dealing with silence. And I think each of those criticisms, right, is really interesting. Like, no one, I think it's a stereotype that people don't like it when you criticize their driving. I think it's definitely a stereotype. People don't like it when you tear into their personality or how they look. But like, why is it that you should care about a bunch of strangers? Because, you know, the thing that really hurts about it is not like people saying things. Like, people are always going to say stuff, right? The thing that hurts is that it hurts. The thing that hurts is when you get a comment saying, man, you know, from someone who's never heard anything about you before, but their first thing is like, man, this guy needs to be driven to the hairdresser, right? Like, you know, he's like attacking the driving and attacking something about my hairstyle at the same time. You know, like, something about strangers wanting to say these things to you kind of hurts to people. Like, you know, learning what people's first impression is towards you is kind of painful. And that's why I think, you know, like, people always say like, oh, it's anonymous internet hate, it means nothing. Something about it makes it actually count. Something about it, like, physically can hurt you. But the weird thing is, being a YouTuber, I have, like, you know, you develop a thick skin. I think everyone, I think just going through high school as a guy will give you a thick skin. Like, 'cause teenagers are brutal human beings. For no particularly good reason, but just, it's kind of fun when you're a teenager to just tear apart other human beings. It's what people do. It's you know, there's nothing else they can do all day, so they just tear into each other. And so, yeah, is there a cave over there? I'm gonna walk towards the cave, but yeah, I think it's really like natural for people to like get a thick skin of just like, yeah, you're used to the most common criticisms. When someone says like, oh yeah, Toycat, I don't like your hair. It's like, that's cool, you can have your own preference. When someone says like, oh, Toy Cat, you know, your skin's real bad, it's like, I'm sorry that my skin is an issue for you to look at, right? Like, that's what they're really saying, like, oh yeah, something that you know, like, it's just a bigger issue for me than it is, like, if someone's issue is, oh, I have to look at that for 3 seconds or something, whereas my issue is like, man, yeah, got this whole condition going on, like, whole thing that's tried to be medicated, that's caused like liver, you know, like there's a whole world that's deeper in there. And so like, when you can write someone off as uninformed, like, yeah, they just don't, that's just a bad first, it wasn't a cave, it was just a little hole. I mean, I guess what is a cave besides a little hole? But my point is that, so writing off someone as like uninformed, real easy. You're writing off, once you've heard the same criticism enough times, like, you're so used to it, it's not, it just bounces off, right? That's what a thick skin is. But I think what's weird is when you're introduced to a criticism for the first time, I think the reason a lot of people feel like hurt by stuff is because most people will have that one criticism you'll hear all your life. Like, you know, if I was just a cashier at 7-Eleven and, you know, every now and then someone looks at me weird, I'm like, yeah, there's this one thing, something about my appearance is clearly it. They're not judging me as a person, right? Like, there can't be something wrong with me as a person that makes me unable to sell you a Slurpee, I don't imagine. And so, yeah, I think that's the real difference, right? Is like, in a way, when someone insults your skill, oh, cute birds. I don't know what that is, but it's cute. When someone insults your skill, when someone insults your ability to find birds and know what they are, besides vaguely brown, you know, they're saying you suck at something that you claim to be good at. I like to believe I know more about birds than the average person. Maybe I don't, maybe I suck at it. But someone, the one that's weird enough to me is like, I've at 2 separate points held a Minecraft world record for console or Bedrock, particularly, and because of that, whenever I just want to speedrun the game for fun, there's people absolutely tearing apart my strategy and saying you should have done this, like, and the backseat gaming gets to me because it's like, yeah, I should be better at this thing. I am bad at a thing that is my whole, you know, like, you can like make a deep psychological connection that like, wait a minute, my whole thing here is I've got to be good at this. So if I'm not being good at this, that means I'm a fundamentally flawed person. Even the silence comments, the first time I get them, because on my channel, I talk a lot. I have a whole third channel where I just do talking. That's how much I talk. It's weird because in real life, I feel like most people don't know me as an over talker, but I like to talk. And I hate when there's like a video where a streamer just says like a word every 60 seconds, like, oh, that's cool, like a reaction. Like, no, say some stuff. I'm here to watch you play a game, you know, anyway, stuff like that. So I try to be conversational in almost all my videos. And so, you know, I've received the comment enough times like, oh, why don't you just stop talking? And it's like, actually, that's a dumb comment. That's a comment from someone saying, I'd rather not be watching your video, I want to watch the game. And it's like, oh, I'm glad you take your ad revenue. I'm glad you watched an ad before you got watched it. But actually, if you don't want to see me, fuck off. Like, I'm happier. I'm happy that you have self-selected yourself as someone who doesn't like me. Me bending to your criticism would be me making myself worse. The same is true if you think about it, about like, this is something that you're gonna notice in your own life, I'm sure. Bending to people's criticisms will make the criticism go away, but it might remove some, like, if I was to go to a barber and say, oh, give me a number 2 all over, mate, and just get that, you know, get the most standard haircut you can get, where you literally just say a number on the blade and say, do that, mate, cheers, boss. I could say that, yeah, I could, but then I just making my appearance less distinctive. Sure, fewer people would criticize it, you know, in combination with my driving perhaps too. It's really hot in the desert. You know, you could say it's annoying when you open your water bottle, and I could like work out how to remove it from the video, like do it off camera, get a sippy water bottle so you don't hear any noises. But if I fix that criticism by not drinking water, I'm just harming myself so that one person doesn't leave a comment. That'd be ridiculous. And so I think in your own life, you gotta work out, like, criticism fall into 2 categories. there's the sort of people who criticize with like a really valid point. Like I don't know, we'll pick like, I don't know, I think every big project you work on has two flaws. One can be like, yeah, your project's flawed, like you know that video you just made, your audio quality sucks, no one can hear you. You need someone to tell you that. If everyone's polite, if there was never hate in the world, if there was never negative comments, people couldn't tell you that, and that would be a problem. But at the same time, you know, you should change your audio, maybe you should fix it up, make sure that people don't want to leave those comments. That's a good sign. When people go from saying there's a negative issue to saying something good, that's wonderful. When they say, oh yeah, my quality's great now. But if people just have a complaint where they just want it to go away for them, but really you're removing something you like for some other people. So as an example, one of the things I'm still trying to balance with is in the Let's Plays on the main channel, I play Minecraft every week. It's my favorite game. I love playing. It's the same world. Love it. It's great. Really enjoy playing it even now. I have weeks where I'm like more excited. I'm like, I want to do multiple ones of these. And I have weeks where I'm like, okay, what are we going to do this week? I got to actually like work it out from scratch. But in those videos, there are moments that people like, and they say they really like. There's the reverse of this. People really say they like the long rants. They kind of match this channel, honestly. And then there are people who don't like that and just leave the video midway through it. And so in a way, catering to the people who say something explicitly is bad. Something you realize very quickly with the world of most praises or criticisms is only the most extreme people ever comment on something. Sometimes that's a sign that, you know, the one person who says your audio sucks, sometimes that's a sign that person's saying what everyone's thinking. But it's just as likely, if not more likely, that someone just has some personal grudge. I remember I've received such weirdly specific comments that really do get me for a little bit. They're like, yeah, that font you use sucks so hard, makes you look so unprofessional. Like, you know, using text-to-speech on this video, Toycat, makes you look like a TikToker, ruins the whole appeal, I'm not Gen Z, or something like that. It's like this, they've got such a weird pet hate for subtitles that it's overriding their actual opinion on whether it adds to the video or not. And if you're like that, if you're the sort of person who, you know, like has such a hatred or even such a love for a thing, like you love these 30-minute rants so much you don't realize that you don't get recommended the videos as much, and when you do get recommended them, once every year, you really love a long Toycat rant after a, you know, long night of drinking the night before, or, you know, some hangover, some come up or whatever, come down. You know, you might absolutely love you might absolutely love it in those moments, but you might not love it otherwise. And that's the weird thing about things like this. And ultimately, it's weird because the message I'm trying to convey here is that you don't really have to care what people think. It's like an option, right? If you think it's not an option, wait till you see the way some people act in public. There are some insane, absolutely insane ways that you can behave in public that are considered to be absolutely fine. Or at least, even if they're not absolutely fine, no one can do anything about it. There's a guy who just walks past my apartment screaming in pain. Happens twice a month. I wonder what happens to him on such regular frequency. But I think it's the same guy, because it's quite a distinctive thing to happen. That's quite rude for me trying to sleep at 10 PM. But ultimately, yeah, he needs to scream in pain. He feels like that's important to him. He's not gonna get any feedback telling him otherwise. Maybe it'd be good if he did, but like, it's actually fine to be a crazy person. It's fine to be a crazy person. Being 5% away from the normal, it's perfectly fine. But I think the deeper thing here, because I do think there's a real point where criticism is important. This is the weird thing about where cancelling comes from, where the whole witch hunt culture that we've lived in for far too long comes from. Sometimes you do need someone. This was half ice when I took it out on the walk, and now it's pure water. Jesus, temperature's so hot here. Yeah, sometimes there's a really valid time to get criticized. So like online, I saw a guy who was like, look, stealing is fun, it's justified, and it's always okay. Like shoplifting, as long as you're doing it from a mega corporation, There is precisely zero issue with it. Wow, my hair sure is annoying. Wish this guy would go get it cut. You know, the times it hurts, actually, the times it hurts when someone says that is when it is like, yeah, I needed to get it cut just before I left the UK, but I was so busy preparing so that I could, that I wasn't able to. You know, like they're highlighting an actual inadequacy I felt in myself. That's why I think the driving thing hurts. Like, I came to that being very aware, like, yeah, when it comes to British road driving, I just haven't really done this at all since I passed. Like, it's a weakness in my skill set. I say it explicitly in the video, but there are still people who are like, yeah, you know, you're inadequate a driver. You know, when people say exactly what you're thinking awfully about yourself, that's when it stings. You can tell me you hate the way I say the word be. You can tell me you hate that I find it too hot here in the desert, or some nonsense like that I don't think or care about. And it's like, you're the insane one here, buddy. But if you say something I think, you know, this is the way that you best convince someone of your point is you convince them they already believe it, right? You convince them using, so if someone is really you want to convince someone who is really pro I don't know, like what they're pro healthcare. They love people getting healthcare, but you want to convince them that I don't know, like, for instance, what's an entirely opposite belief? Like, you want to convince them that despite them loving healthcare, that we should allow people to smoke. And you say, well, look, we want people who are old to get the best healthcare, but so that everyone else can have some too. If we let people smoke, they die at age 55, use no healthcare resources, it's all good. And that's a real point, by the way. Like, people who smoke die younger and use way fewer healthcare resources, because even though there's a chance you get lung cancer and it costs the NHS or costs your insurance $1 million, ultimately there's a chance that that's true. There's a much higher chance you just die early. You know, you take like 8 minutes off your lifespan of every cigarette. How many cigarettes are you smoking a day? You know, it's a lot is the usual answer to that. And so there's been no one else around me for like miles. There were some houses back there, I want to say, but there's no one in there. It's weird. My point is to say that people will, when they agree with themselves and then they agree with you, it's a more solidifying point. And in the same way, if you want to convince someone that they hate themselves, you say language they've already been secretly thinking. You tap into people's secret fears and they go, oh God, that is what I've always believed, isn't it? You know, I am right that, you know, like, what's the secret fear you might have? You might have the secret fear that everyone around you looks at you and thinks you're boring. So you're real boring right now. You're watching YouTube. You know, is that the most interesting thing you can do with your time? You could be learning to play the piano. You could be on a hike yourself, but you're watching a British man do it. Probably hurts a little bit. Maybe there's a little bit of truth in that for you, like statistically enough you're watching. But I say, yeah, people have noticed the size of your nose, dude. They're not saying anything, but that's what they're always looking at. Oh, don't get me started on the way your eyes are. Oh, God, is that unattractive? Sorry, you deserve it, but it's okay. I think that ultimately, like, the criticisms you're most fearful of are the ones you internalize yourself. But then there's like two easy ways out. You know, there's two easy ways to get a steel skin, to get a thick skin. One way is to, you know, it's to like look at everything and be like, well, they're below me. They're uninformed. You know, that person says, I don't know, like, what's a dumb thing? Like, that person says that it's faster to craft sticks by using, like, I don't know, planks than using bamboo. Well, they don't know I have a bamboo farm, the dumbasses. So, you know, you can easily, like, say someone's uninformed. You can, like, a surprisingly effective thing. It's one of the fallacies of argument. Just ad hominem them. Like, yeah, they're probably an ugly loner that sits on their sofa, getting their wings lowered by their mother. Or you can, rather than bringing everyone else down, inflate yourself up. Yeah, I get hate comments from people. I get people who, like, tear apart the fabric of my being. But really, I mean, you know, they're toiling away at some job they hate, barely making ends meet. Your boy's out here taking a walk in Las Vegas at 1 PM, enjoying the heat. I'm gonna go out. There's a all-you-can-eat sushi place, $25. I'm gonna just buy. It's not gonna be a financial hardship for my week that I'm going to that. Yeah, I'm gonna show the world who's boss. I think a lot of people get trapped in that cycle where they're like, yeah, people below you obviously hate you because they're below you. Everyone dreams of being me. They hate my hair because they can't pull it off. They hate my driving because they wish they could get away with such poor standards. They, this is, you can almost like reverse that, like people hate you because they're insecure about themselves. I hate modern fashion. Like I hate baggy clothes. I don't know, like it looks bad on people. When I wear it myself, it's not a thing I like. I feel like I feel like tight form fitting is, you're meant to show your form, right? You're not meant to just be a big bag of blubber. But actually, by being, you know, like I hate that stuff. But actually it's like, yeah, it's an insecurity that like I feel. The reason I do so many active hobbies is because I like food so much. I will get fat. It takes basically no time at all of me not exercising for me to get very, very large, because I just love food. I love it so much. And so I am insecure about the idea of wearing something that makes me look horrifically sized. Although actually, people wearing that is fashionable because you're showing, in a way, you don't care what people think. Oh, I gotta stop doing this way. Sorry for the terrible camera work while I'm trying to drink water. It's hot today, by the way. It's in the 30s. You're in your 30s too. You're slowly dying, huh? Maybe you're past your 30s, I don't know. Yeah, you see, like you can tear into people, but yeah, something feels really painful about when someone takes time out of their day just to say something mean. But people take time out of their day to do really silly things all the time. And so you can inflate yourself, you can deflate them, you can convince yourself that it's less than. But I think something that's more important, especially something I find hard to admit, like being vulnerable is really hard for me. Like putting myself out there, sharing my crash I had while driving, and like I know I'm gonna get comments telling me what I should have done, and they're gonna sting. I know that if I tell people, like I would describe myself. It took me a while to be able to describe myself this way, because again, I would say I'm sensitive about the fact that I think the trait neurotic can be described as sensitive in a lot of personality models. There's like openness. There's 5 major personality types in the modern psychological theory, and neuroticism or sensitivity is one you don't want. Like every other trait, it's like, yeah, it's pretty cool to have people that are dependable. It's pretty cool to have people that are open, and yeah, having someone who's neurotic as fuck, I guess it's good for their creativity maybe. Like it's a bad thing in general, right? And so I think, man, look behind me. Look at this. That's the Las Vegas Strip back there. Way back there. It's something that's hard, and the fact that it's like a full body reaction when there's like a new criticism I haven't heard sucks. Sometimes it happens when I'm on stream. I just feel like, man, everything I have is meaningless. Everything I am or do, it's so meaningless, man. Like, this person makes a good point, what am I doing? And it's useful to have external like anchoring points. Times you can validate yourself by being like, yeah, things are going pretty well for me actually. Or, yeah, if you have to tear people down, you suck. But ultimately, a lot of criticism has a root you need to listen to. Like the shoplifting guy who doubled down on his stance and said, no, actually, all these corporatist shills, so they're not corporate shills, they're just saying stealing's not morally okay. At some point, you need to have something like that for yourself. You need to have the point where you realize the people who disagree with you aren't terrible, aren't less than. There's an eagle or something over there. I hope he doesn't try to eat me. If he does, that means I'm dead. So, I mean, I feel pretty dead, to be honest with you. But I am going for an interesting hike. And I've got vaguely enough water to get me there. and that's what I really need. But no, yeah, I think that's the weird thing about criticism, is sometimes like, everyone can see it for other people much easier, but it's sometimes the world needs criticism. The world needs someone to say your mic is bad. The world needs someone to say, you know, the way you don't look, the way you signal before you mirror is bad. You know, to my mind, it's not actually bad. Like, yeah, you signal, then if there's someone there, you unsignal and there's no harm done. Like, they know it's fine. But it's not good driving. You might freak them out. They might make a mistake where they crash. You know, it's someone needs to tell you that. Someone needs to tell you that actually, Toycat, you know, invest in better lighting, because right now, just the way your face looks genuinely makes me not want to watch the video. Like, I need to know that there's 3% of the world who won't watch a video of my face cam in. Because even though it's much bigger my issue than their issue, even though it's me who's gone through the whole back and forth about the medication that, you know, there's a slight chance of making you commit suicide. Only 1% of people on the medication commit suicide. I've had to weigh that one up, right? Not them, but still, you know, if you want something from other people, at some point it doesn't matter whose issue it is. I heard a fun phrase recently of, like, someone's teacher being like, yeah, you're late, but that's bad luck, but it's your bad luck, not my bad luck, so you're still getting detention or something. And it sounds brutal, but it's like, yeah, you can't take away consequences of bad luck, or everyone thinks it's bad luck. You can't pretend we don't need criticism and we